It's extremely important for him.
And it sounds like we are about ready to fire into our first map of our third Challenger series. We've shifted over to the Americas side. It is dooi versus Sib, and we are going to be looking through the eyes of doooi's off the start. Spawned over near the Mega, and immediately coming out, although didn't really have a huge arsenal, was ready to deal some damage here. Now finally getting his hands on a rocket and a rail, and we'll see how this first engagement is going to play out. Nice rail coming out of that telly, and dooi lands some damage on the board. Now again, things going quiet, and it will be, you know, up to dooi to maybe try to force that shield out, and it comes out in the first engagement. Works out perfectly for Sib. On top of that Mega, he gets his first frag.
Indeed, that Mega pickup came at just the right time, but now Sib, he's just a big fridge, a lot of surface area to hit. But with both of the major items to his name, dooi just unable to do enough damage and secure the frag. Still lacking the railgun. I'm liking this though I don't know how I feel about that Tribolt. Mega is about to spawn. dooi, what are you going to do? Dive bomb on it, he's too late, dooi! If he had made that move 2 seconds earlier, he should have been able to secure the item, and if Sib had pushed, the frag probably would have gone doooi's way as well.
Yeah, I mean, Shield has been Sib's best friend so far. 2 of his 3 frags secured that way, and you know, as we've seen many times with that clutch, a lot of times trying to force that shield out, popping it, and then, you know, not necessarily taking that fight is one of the ways that many players do deal with that clutch. Has not been the case, and as you mentioned, the timing on that Mega, unfortunately, a little bit too slow, giving Sib the advantage in that matchup. dooi is going to land a nice rail there, but looking through the eyes of Sib, he is just only minorly phased by that one. Heavy is up, and he's going to move right on top of it. Shield does get popped out. Now, there's the disengage, and so now dooi has an opportunity to know that for the next 30-40 seconds, he should be in the clear and able to take a clean fight. And here we go in the back hallway, but Sib still comes out on top. His LG just looking pretty good, Flea.
dooi hitting 56% LG, which is of course to be expected when you're up against clutch, but Sib slapping back with 46 of his own. Quite the achievement, and dooi finally gets his first frag. Now the question is, can he actually do something with it? Can he turn this opportunity into control? Doesn't have LG, doesn't have shotgun, so it's going to be difficult to fight a robot, and Sib is aware of it. He's just going to push in and bully yet another frag in his favor.
Yeah, it might even get a second one. Rocket jump, rocket bounce up to the wall. He cannot follow up with that one. And Sib cannot clean that frag up. I think what you said, Flea, is really important, that dooi was not really able to make a convert off of that. Getting 4 frags up pretty quickly, that's exactly the time that you want to get that frag and then try to seal the deal on a second, maybe even a third. Wasn't the case. Shield did come into play yet again, but now dooi trying to fight back control, land himself another frag, and Shield is up, so we'll have to see how dooi is going to try to pull and bait this one out. He hasn't had much luck playing that middle area so far. You know, the 2 times we've seen it happen. Hold on. Got a Metal Gear Solid moment happening here. Rockets raining down from up above out of the teleporter, and we do see dooi catching Sib off very nicely. Shield has popped, a ton of damage is dished out there, and very, very low. Yet another one. Sib is in the danger zone, but manages to get away.
This is also just a very rough champion matchup for dooi. The Berserk ability that Doomslayer has is very rarely used, which means that there's a ton of hourglasses that cleave up on the map, and that allows Sib to almost always get his shield back very quickly too. So dooi just unable to really deal with that because he can't take away those hourglasses.
We hear the screams coming from Clutch, and dooi just cannot clean it up with that shotty. He gets to the middle yet again, controlling that Mega area. It is up in just a few moments. Should be able to secure that one pretty cleanly as he makes his way over, and Clutch still back in those far hallways. The shield is down, and that is exactly what dooi needed, picking up that major item and getting the frag. Can he convert another one? About 10 seconds left until the next shield is up, and I love what you said about the hourglasses. It is definitely an advantage in Sib's favor, and right now dooi needs everything here as we're about to hit the halfway point, and he's down by 3.
At least dooi appears to have control back of the map. He's picked up heavy, now Mega will go his way as well. So he is outstacking the row, but once that shield gets popped, that all changes. So dooi, he really needs a good opener to the next fight. A rail, a nice burst of LG, maybe even a shotgun blast, but he just dives on in. LG needs to be solid. And Sip with 4 points of health edges out to win. dooi though, ready for an instant refrag there.
I would have been a little more worried about that frag flea if dooi wouldn't have picked up the one right off of the spawn through the teleporter. Could get another lock on right here as Sib is looking around. Clutch is going, where'd he go? As he just popped up just perfectly in the air, allowing dooi to bring it back one more. Now 2 frags separating these two as we are entering the second half of this game. But I like what dooi's doing here, trying to open up with that rail damage, and unfortunately drops down maybe at the wrong time. Sib capitalizing on that, had the right weapon out. LG to dooi's death, and it is now a 3 frag lead for Sib. Make it 4.
I have no clue why dooi went for that push. Mega wasn't up for another 10 seconds, so it's not as if he could just easily get on it first. He didn't really have that many weapons to work with after his respawn. He knew that Sib was still plenty healthy. And dooi looks like he's just bound to the plus forward key, even though Sib continues to land this amount of damage.
Yeah, Sib seems like he's picking up a little bit of confidence in this matchup, right? Like playing certainly with some gusto, I guess you could say, as we enter into the second half. Took things, I think, a little bit slower at the start, but and now is certainly turning on the aggression a little bit more. Up by 5, you kind of have the freedom to be able to do that. Get a nail jump up to the top, followed up with a rail, but forcing himself to have to pop that shield because he didn't expect, I think, dooi to be on the other side of that. Oh! Keys, unfortunately, the momentum of his own jump forward or backwards right off the map, making it a 4 frag lead now for Sib.
dooi definitely still in it to win it. He's got the opportunity. 3 minutes, 4 frags. It's a tall order, but it's not impossible. Gonna find Sib. Oh, look at that. dooi now LG getting an excellent frag right there. Sib caught by surprise, pops the shield as an entirely defensive measure, but unable to get out of the room fast enough. And now dooi slowly but surely closing the gap.
Kind of like where we're at here, you know, about 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. 3 frags, certainly. It is possible here. And as you mentioned, dooi not going to be letting up at all. Sib looked like he pretty much controlled and had some domination. I mentioned he was getting pretty comfortable, but dooi just kind of warming up a little bit and certainly has scored some big wins with the frags that he has been able to get. And most importantly, some of those follow-ups as well. So what is dooi going to do, though, in the next 2 minutes is suddenly he's going to be on the hunt, on the chase, as he needs 3 frags to try to secure this map 1 win. Here we go, chasing with that rail, finding him. Oh, gets a defensive rail, and unfortunately, momentum almost immediately stopped there.
Now he's dealing with a very fast robot with a lot of stacks. Sib kind of fumbling the movement there. I think he tried to rocket jump up maybe.
Yeah.
That was odd, but somehow got himself stuck in the corner. And dooi actually given a bit of a lifeline right there. I think if Sib had just stood his ground, went for the fight, could have at least done a lot more damage. But the problem is that dooi just doesn't have that much stack to work with. Major items aren't up yet, so he's left lingering without any armor to his name. Trying to make a move on heavy, but it will still be Sib to secure the item.
Yeah, and 1 minute left to go. I mean, it's great that dooi was able to capitalize off of that failed rocket jump, but unfortunately, he's got to make and open up some doors for himself as well, as I'm not expecting Sib to make 2 more mistakes that would let dooi capitalize. dooi on the chase, though. Huge LG damage. Shield is popped, but holding him up like a cloud in the sky. Suddenly, it becomes a 1 frag game with 30 seconds left to go. dooi on the hunt. He's got a good stack, Flea, 100, 100. Sib does have that heavy yet again. No shield for another 30 seconds. Now's the time for dooi to strike. It's a rail.
Needs to land more of these shots. Wheat, he needs to start hitting them. Can he find his opponent? He can. Come on, the LG comes out. Sip actually takes away the Mega, but the shoddy, it's powerful. It works. And dooi ties it up with seconds left on the clock, meaning that we're jumping into overtime at last. Next frag decides the outcome of this match.
Oh my gosh, over heavy shields popped and Sib gets it. He kind of baited it out a little bit, Flea. It looked like he was gonna go the other way. I think dooi felt comfortable dropping down. Sib came back, actually smart play in the final moments. He didn't have a shield there in the, before sudden death. Shield was up, perfect pop, takes it by 1, and Sib takes the first game 10-9.
Very close indeed. I do kind of worry, or I wonder about Sib popping that shield when he was on the bounce pad. I don't even know about that one, because what that means is that you're basically guaranteed to die, so you delay your death by a few seconds, but in turn, you burn the shield, right? So you spawn with no shield available. And that is what allowed dooi to get another frag and tie it up. I think that if Sib had just taken the death right there, respawned with his shield, it wouldn't even have gone to overtime in the end. So perhaps a bit of a questionable decision there, but of course in the heat of the moment he probably thought he could still get away up through the bounce pad. Yet nevertheless, no harm, no fault. Sib will be the first one to secure a map. And this is the situation that we were kind of worried about, weren't we? First map, a loss for dooi. Can he overcome this now that he doesn't have any momentum whatsoever?
I mean, it certainly means that much more steep mountain in order to climb, Flea. Is dooi capable? I do think he's capable, but to your point, the momentum now lies in the hands of Sib. We're going to be moving on to Molten, where dooi's going to be taking on Strogg, and Sib is going to be rocking the Sorlag. And, again, anything can happen. But I think if I was a player like Sib, winning that first map, I think definitely improves my chances overall of potentially winning the series and earning that spot in QPL. But you just simply cannot count out dooi yet. That was still a very close game too, as well, right? Like it could have gone either way in those last moments. Maybe that sudden death was played a little bit hastily, right? Or the little bit of aggression that worked out way better for Sib than it did for dooi. Might have worked out better to just take a more relaxed approach to it. Of course, hindsight is 20/20 after all.
If we look at the stats for the last game, it appears that dooi did most of the damage and secured most of the major items too. Minor items as well, now that I look at it. But still, Sib, excellent use of the shield, throwing around that robot weight of the spawn. And I think that dooi, he mounted a nice comeback towards the end, but the first opening minutes were just so dominant by Sib that he lost a lot of momentum already.
Yeah, and best of 5 series though. Just have to remind everyone the way that the challengers work. Best of 5. The lower bracket doesn't kind of kick in until we hit the round of 24, round of 16. That's why these challenger series are best of 5. It's a one and done, but you get the full series to really try to make your impact, secure your spot in the QPL. And it is interesting though, because the 2 European players that were previously in the QPL did make it through. This is the first time that we're seeing a potential for another player coming in. I mean, I suppose Buckster did win his first game, but CNZ brought that back to knock him down 3. Will dooi have a similar performance? Well, we're about to find out as we hop into Molten Falls next.
I mean, every player who has managed to defend their spot lost at least one map so far. It's always been 1, 2, 3 final score. So dooi absolutely still has an opportunity to turn it around. As you said, best of 5. Sib needs to win at least 2 more maps to secure himself the victory. So dooi still has time to get back into it. And if we look at that previous map, I did get the feeling, like you said, that dooi was starting to get a bit warmed up towards the end, right? His shots were finally landing more. His decision making was better, with the exception of perhaps that hasty push on heavy towards the end. But overall, it seemed like dooi was coming into his own a bit more there.
And the other thing that would be kind of a danger zone, Flea, would be for Sib to chalk up another map win and take it 2-0. I think that is mounting, you know, the most intense mounting pressure that you could possibly get in a match like this. One map to potentially send you home, knowing you've got to sort of play a perfect 3 maps in order to bring that back, take it all the way to the end. And so this becomes an incredibly crucial map for dooi to stop that momentum, kind of reset things back to a best of 3, and then go from there. And we are now officially loaded into Molten with the countdown, or with the clock counting down. And as we hit 3, 2, 1, good luck, have fun. Please take us away.
Kicking it off on Dewey's perspective, the cams are back. 2 fast champions going up against each other. Dooi, of course, has the added benefit of having that peeker, the drone to work with, but Sib has got the better base stack and the toxic, the acid spray as well. So pretty evenly matched champions, slight stack advantage for Sib, but a lot of speed on both of these guys.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see how these 2 particular champs and their abilities are used. I mean, with your Spit, you've got a little bit of zoning control, but same with Peeker. Peeker can also be used as, you know, offensively very nice, and some opening rails come out right away. Dooi, with that shotgun around the corner, does a lot of damage, falls down, 16 points of health, but Peeker, used defensively, saves him, but a rocket. Nice read by Sib on top of that light. He picks up the first frag in this map.
And that is why Peeker can be so strong on these maps that have a lot of verticality. You drop down and you send Peeker right back up as a grand surprise. Dooi, hyper aggressive even when touched by the acid. Sib was just not even looking at him. Even though he could see the tracker, the damage through the walls, he just wasn't expecting Dooi to actually go for it. And that helped nicely for Dooi to tie it back up.
I really kind of like Dooi committing to speed here. We're going to have a trade. Nice rockets to pin Sib into the corner, but Sib back from the grave. The acid takes Dooi down, tying us up 2-2. An exciting way to start off this matchup as we're only hitting the 2-minute mark. And Dooi now with a pretty reasonable stack. Sib has himself the Mega. Things slow down just a little bit here, as we might have a surprise coming out. Rocket connects, coming from Sib. Dooi wondering where did that come from. Knows exactly where he is now. And things will slow down here after a chaotic start to map 2.
Like it will be Dooi once more to secure the heavy. I think Sib overextending for sure. Mega is still up and Dooi will be the one to secure it. But he lingers around a little too long, popping the Peeker before he even gets to safety. Oh! So aggressive from Dooi, sliding into his opponent with nothing but the gauntlet. And he almost gets the frag too.
I feel like he just thought that Sib was a lot lower than he actually was. Even in that Peeker play, the follow-up with the gauntlet, kind of like, that should have killed him. Certainly he's going to die with a single hit. That did not work out for him as well. I'm always a fan of aggression. I like it. But unfortunately, I think that was a misread on just how much damage had been inflicted and where his opponent was. It's okay, though. Down by 1. He still manages off the spawn. And even being in a deficit, Flea, to have the better stack. We're going to have a fight here at the rail. Spit comes out. Little dot damage being done, but the heavy is right there for Dooi. He picks it back up, still has the better stack.
Dooi currently sitting at 0% railgun accuracy. Keeps going for the finishing shot with the rail, but never seems to connect. He needs to step that up. Absolutely needs to start landing those shots. He does get Mega. Might be able to get on heavy as well if he's willing to commit. Nope, after that rocket, no chance in hell. Caught in a really bad spot there as well. He wasn't able to build enough momentum to even get out of that corner. What is this though, Dooi? He's just throwing himself at Sib time and time again, Wheat.
Yeah, I'm not even sure about that one, Flea. That was just straight up aggression. And the other one, at least I think, I understand why he decided to go after that. I thought he was pretty hurt too, especially after that peeker hit. But that was just pure, I think I'm just going to throw my body at the problem and see if that solves the issue. Dooi doing it yet again, but this time has Sib very low. Cannot make anything happen with the peeker. Takes a little bit of acid damage, but again, still manages to squeeze in there and grab that heavy. Now Sib in the lead, but still very, very low, trying to prioritize those health pickups. And will that be an opportunity for Dooi to pick up the frag? It is, and he brings that deficit down to 2, 3 to 5, and it's still only 4 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock.
Dooi so far nearly has 15 major items picked up. Sib has 3. So it's absolutely Dooi who is in control of most of the resources, but Sib is out damaging him at seemingly every single turn, and Dooi just unable to really get a good read on his opponent and finally get dominance not just of the items but also of these fights. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Dooi has a massive stack, shows up around the corner and eats a direct rocket, 100 damage to the face, and Sib just gets auto again.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought it up earlier, but I do think the big difference between these two is those rails. More rails being thrown out there by Sib. He's been using them to close and secure some of those frags from down below. Drops the peeker, does eat a little bit of rocket damage, but up the jump pad, Dooi goes, and the damage ticks away, but it's away okay. 2 frags separating these two, and Sib is going to get another one. Not even sure what happened in that exchange, but again, goes back to what you were saying, Flea, in terms of Dooi not really yielding ever, kind of going full force in everything that he is doing, and unfortunately, that has widened the gap here in the lead for Sib.
Dooi finally landing a rail shot. He needs more than that. Up until now, Dooi only had 1 rail shot to actually connect, whereas Sib nearly has 1,000 points of damage with that weapon alone. So as you said, that is just such a large distinction, a gap that Dooi is unable to overcome or make up just by having more resources. Nice
I mean,
rails.
look at the starts of these, right? All rails. It truly is one of the big differences between these two.
He's about to spawn. Nice attack from Dooi. Can he tie it up though? Somehow it almost goes awry, but he finds the shot when it matters the most. 3 minutes for 3 frags, entirely possible weave, but Sib knows that he's got a strong base stack off the spawn and just pushes his luck for another kill.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Sib just in the right place, right time, but unfortunate for Dooi, especially after picking up that frag. Now 4 frags separating these two. Sib still in the lead, and we did see Dooi heat up his rail a little bit and secure a frag off of that, but he needs to keep that going. Sib down to 10 points of health, running away for his life. Up the jump pad, Dooi goes, and look at that, another rail coming out by Sib. He's gonna escape away, get both of those health bubbles down below. We are going to have Mega up. He didn't stick around to pick that up. Might give Dooi the opportunity, and there it is. So Sib, no armor stack at all. In the danger zone, down to 10 yet again. Nice little juke, throwing that spit out, managing to get away. Has to be careful, still in danger. And there it is, Dooi with a shotgun to the dome as he jumps down to the Mega platform, making it once again a 3 frag game. Sib in the lead.
I just want to say that that was an absolutely phenomenal read by Dooi. He left heavy up, absolutely could have given Sib an opportunity to just steal it, but he was so convinced that Sib would just go for Mega instead that he caught him on the other side of the map to get the shotgun finish. Unfortunately for him, Sib spawned towards heavy and has now turned that item pickup in a good amount of stack, a lot of damage too, and Dooi, this is it, Wheat. He has to get the frags now. He can't delay any longer. 90 seconds, 3 frags.
Those rails are going to definitely help him get that much closer. Sib sneaking in and grabbing that heavy. Dooi getting some free shots from up above. Sib very, very low. And this could make it a 2 frag game. Actually can't do the damage. Still looking for it. A nice mid-air rail coming out by Dooi, but he's a bit low off the spawn. He's got to be careful, and time is against him. 2 frags to make up in 1 minute, and Sib just grabbed himself the Mega. What is Dooi going to do?
Sip got railgun as well. The only weapon he's missing is LG. So at these medium distance engagements, that is where Dooi the most. He finds Sip. It's rockets on rockets. Dooi so far doing most of the damage, but Sip retreating expertly. Oh, that might be it, Wheat. That might be it. Unless Dooi gets a phenomenal frag now, but it will be Sip taking advantage of the weakness that you're exposed to when you pop that peeker. And especially after that one, Dooi will be calling GG. 2-0 up for Sib. This is not looking good for the man from Texas.
This is exactly that situation that we spoke about just moments before the game 2 began, which is a scenario where Sib picks up game 2, and that means suddenly Dooi turns into a mountain climber with no gear standing in front of Mount Everest. He has got to win the next 3 games in a row. That's Ruins, that's Deep Embrace, and that's Veil. And that is a tall order, Flea. Like, it doesn't matter who you are in the QPL. It's a very pressuring situation. Sib now on a 1 game, is 1 game away from potentially landing his spot into the QPL. And frankly, it might be his time.
What's also worrying is that, at least in my eyes, Molten Falls is actually one of Dewey's best maps. He tends to perform well when this map shows up. So for him to lose this one as well, I mean, it was his map pick too. Sip picked Awoken, but Dewey chose Molten, so now we're once again looping back onto Sip's pick. It will be Ruins of Sarnet, and Sip gets to run the Death Knight versus Dewey on the Galena.
Yeah, Runes of Sarnath, you know, I'm pretty familiar with how Galena, you know, can work on this particular map. Any thoughts on Death Knight on Ruins, right? Seems like it could be a great way to secure lower heavy, gives you some advantage when you're on top of the Mega. Anything else, Flea, that, you know, we should be aware of with Sib on the Death Knight here on Ruins?
I also think that the Railgun and the Lightning Gun room, they are going to be perfect positions for Death Knight to use his Flame Strike ability. But other than that, there's also a lot of very open areas, right? Where both of the small armors are. You've got these large open outdoor spaces where you really can't use that ability as effectively unless you can get really, really close to your opponent. Now, the interesting thing about Death Knight when it comes to how he plays on these maps, Wheat, is that we really don't have much to go by. He's been a pariah within the Quake Pro League meta for so long now that this all feels brand new to finally have him picked on all these different maps.
Yeah. It is kind of funny. It's also great to hear. And frankly, Flea, one of the things that I'm kind of excited about is the changes were made in those final weeks of regular play, which meant that when we had this break, that suddenly it was going to be surprise meta in the finals, right? How is Death Knight going to play? Are we going to see a lot of bans come out? Did a lot of players put some time and effort into figuring out some of the nuances of this champion in some of the different maps? Rafa has spoke very highly of using the champion. We've seen many others practicing as well. It certainly adds a new, exciting, and kind of unknown point, I guess, to the final. So kind of like it mixing things up a little bit and makes the pick bans even more exciting than they already were. But we're out ready to start here in Ruins. If you've just joined us, we're in the third challengers matches. This is for the Americas, where Dewey is unfortunately down 2 games to Sib, and Sib could secure his spot in stage 3 of the QPL with a win right here on this map. The countdown has begun, and we're about ready to see if Dewey can pick it back up and start his momentum run to a possible 3-2 victory, or if Sib closes it out right here.
This is the 3rd time in a row that Sip is playing one of these relegation matches at the stage finals. Oh, that flame. Ooh. That was a lot of damage, just where we predicted it to Weed over at that railgun area. It hurts.
Dude, you get all the credit, Lee. You predicted that right in that area, and it literally happened in the first opening moment, so nice work there.
Thank you. Now Mega about to spawn. Dewey actually had positioning, but he's gonna drop down instead. Maybe he's not entirely convinced that he knows exactly when Mega spawns, or maybe he just really wants the heavy. No, looks like he is just going to rocket jump up for Mega, and he should be on course to secure both of the items. Sip dropping down, takes a rocket for his trouble, and now Dooi in control of the items. Got a nice little rotation between them, and has got a good amount of stack to work with too.
Did manage to take out 2 totems there, one with a rocket, the other with his face, but 2 raced from the map. And, you know, with that first frag, Sib's got to be feeling good about getting something that's probably unexpected. You never know what can happen off of that initial spawn. Chaos and craziness can, of course, be exactly what is produced. But in that case, ooh, a sick double rail from Sib, catching a pixel of his opponent's head as he was falling down to the rail, and he increases his lead by 2. Now down in the heavy, has Flame ready, is going up. Nice rocket coming out by Dooi. In fact, Flame comes out but does pretty much nothing, and Dooi is on the board.
Those rockets were indeed perfect. Pushing his opponent up against the wall and finishing it off in style. Now Dooi knows exactly where Sib is. He heard the Mega being picked up, so he's got the timing as well. And I like the positioning he's taking. Dropping down the totem prematurely just to have that line of defense, stopping Sib from rushing in whenever he feels like it. And it will allow him to secure at least one of the items.
We do see Sib catching his opponent come up from the jump pad from down below. Has Sib trapped into the corner. Dooi, what is Dooi gonna do? Kind of waiting it out a little bit, and that will give him the Mega. Will probably be set up yet again, Flea, to take both these items. That's exactly what happens. Unfortunately, missing that rail. That would have been pretty big for Dooi, as he is a second away from picking up that heavy. And nice gap between these 2 major items, giving the player in control the potential to, you know, grab them both. But with 1 frag, got to be careful. Oh, Sib just standing over to the side, checking out the pattern on the wall. Dooi catches it, but Flame on. Nice rail. Sib very, very low. Dewey's got to get away, picks up that health bubble. Back up to 100. That totem, that was a close one.
Dewey's got 1 totem hidden away down below at heavy. Looks like he's just much more concerned with dropping them in place, because Sib might run into them rather than hanging on or hiding them to get that overstack going. Mega's about to spawn in a few seconds. That rail, that just means that Dooi can't make a push for this item yet. Has to retreat, go back to his safe space, which is where he's got these totems lined up. He knows that if he takes more damage, he can just drop right back onto it, but Sib picks it down on the way. Now Dewey's in a bad spot. Yeah.
Ooh.
Going up the bounce pad at the worst possible time, just as Sib entered the room, that allowed his opponent to just completely clear both of the totems and set up perfectly for the item.
Yep, Dooi now dodging and dancing around those flames. Does get a couple nice rocket shots, but Sib equalizing once again by hitting those rails. He is hitting a 66% rail. That is 15 shots and 10 of those hit compared to the 44 of Dooi. And once again, similar to the other maps, Flea, certainly one of the things that is giving Sib the upper hand. He's been using it as a closer. He has negated some of the major item pickups by Dooi, and this 3 frag lead now is certainly one of the byproducts of that. And off of the Mega, it hadn't even spawned yet. Another frag pickup for Sib, making it 5-1 as we're about to hit the halfway point of this matchup.
Dooi really struggling. Just unable to get the same level of consistency. You can see it when you look at the damage as well. Sib definitely doing more damage, and it's kind of a predictable pattern almost. Dooi, most of the items, but it is Sib who lands the shots and just secures the better positions at the earlier time. Nice rail, and Sib immediately turns back around. Love that play. You could tell that he was ready to leave the room, but then he lands that opening shot and he's like, you know what? Let me see what I can make of this. And Dooi brute forcing through the flames, knowing that there's a health bubble up for him. Does get away with Mega and should be able to secure the heavy as well. So Dooi has got the items to his name.
Yeah, and I mean, if Mega was a pie, Dewey walked away with a piece of the pie because Sib definitely made the right decision to turn back around and dealt a lot of damage off of that one. And unfortunate because it could have been an opportunity for Dewey to kind of get an upper hand and start to take a little bit of control. Now we're going to have Heavy up here in just a moment. Mega was just picked up, and this time Sib is actually going to retreat away. But when you're 4 frags ahead, you sort of have the ability to be able to do that. Actually puts himself above the exit to the Heavy, lands a very, very nice rail. Dewey cannot return, and we'll have another rail exchange happen. Sid hits his, Flames coming out, and Flames will take Dewey down 1-6 with 4 minutes left to go.
This is just clever gameplay from Sip. He knows that if Dewey gets close or rushes him, he's got the Flame Strike to cancel that out. So what he does is set himself up at a central area of the map, also being very well aware that he's consistently out-damaging Dewey with the rail. Dewey, 23% accuracy, Sip nearly 60. So he knows that if it comes down to a railgun fight, he will likely win. And that gives him so much freedom to not even have to worry about the major items, but just set up in these defensible decisions, or positions rather, and make the best out of it. But Dewey, finally, starting to land some railgun shots of his own. There is still time, but he needs to kick it up now.
This would be big, at least grabbing that, but look at that. Sib with the triple rail down in the Heavy room, making it 2-7. And you were right, like Dewey, that was his opportunity. He was going to get the Heavy, but Sib playing a great defensive game, and his rail is certainly looking better than Dewey's right now. Dewey does manage to bring 1 frag back. It's still a 4 frag game, but that clock is ticking away. And remember, Dewey must win this one in order to stay alive in the QPL. Sib is potentially less than 3 minutes away from securing his spot in Stage 3.
Sip, unable to get any sort of weapons. What? How did he still get that frag? Sip only had the Heavy nail gun for like half a minute with Dewey chasing him down. But then Dewey just rocket jumping up there and then taking so much damage both from his own rocket as well as from the beautiful nail gun spam. And that allowed him to get an excellent frag. And now 4 frags of a deficit, 2 minutes to go. Wait, this is going to be awfully tight for Dewey.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't see a frag in this next 30 seconds, I think it's going to be the danger zone for sure. It already is right now, as Sib has a little bit of room to work with here. Not only the frag advantage, but just also the size of the map. And as he just flies through the lower hallway, he flicks a rail for the frag, making it a 5 frag lead for him. And I really wasn't expecting the 3-0, but as we discussed early on when Ketchup was on, that momentum could make that happen, and that is exactly what I think we've seen here. Not to say that Dewey played bad, I just don't know if Dewey played as well as he is capable of doing. Sib definitely coming calm today, collected, and that seems to certainly show in his play, as he is a minute away. 5 frags, I don't think that's happening, Flea, but we do have our first new fighter in the QPL.
Yeah, Dewey, he's calling the GGs in chat as it is. I think you could also kind of tell that final frag when Dewey just got killed by that flyby rail, his reaction, that you knew that was the end of it. Dewey just, yeah, that was the final nail in the coffin. Sib securing his spot back into the Quake Pro League. Third time is indeed a charm. He lost to Zeneku at his 2 previous attempts coming out of challengers, but this time he will make it stick versus Dewey. Dewey, man from Texas, dropping out, and Sip will be taking his place.
And already, Chad is quick to say that sets up Sib versus Razy in the round of 16. So if this was initiation, the hazing comes in the round of 16, as Sib will be going up against the best player over on the European region side. But congratulations to Sib with a 3-0 victory over Dewey. Definitely excited to hear what Ketchup has to say about that. Ketchup, I hope you enjoyed the matchup. Welcome back. What'd you think?
Very much like what we talked about at the start of the series, where Dooi has not had that same kind of form that we've been familiar with. And although there are moments of greatness in his play, it's not the same level of consistency that we're used to. And it is a shame to see him go out in this manner. It would have been nice to have a few more maps played through, but the reality is, like, you